And
We know when you.
hello, you there? Are we live? Did we work this time?
Well, there is a delay
There is
behind what
delay.
we see on what we're doing on ours to what's on there. So fingers crossed.
I know you're
We
still
can
sort of
just start.
cutting out slightly, but cutting out. But we're gonna have to just go with the flow. Hello, welcome back to our second podcast episode. We've got a few topics here, but let's first do the introductions. You know who I am. You're on my channel, so but let's do the introductions for Red Dead Panda. Red Dead Panda, who are they?
Hi, Red Dead Panda. I'm a gamer from New Zealand, on the Middle Earth, as I may well be known by, well, from everyone else. But I am. You can find me on Twitter on Red Dead Panda 1, and you can find me on YouTube at Red Dead Panda Gaming, and you can also find me on Xbox on Red Dead Panda 871.
Hello, excellent. Yes, I just thought I'd say, yeah, you can find me obviously on YouTube here, and you can find me on Xbox on Elite Gaming Guru, and I'm not on Twitter or anyone else at the moment. Right, so shall we get straight into our subjects? We've got 3 subjects. We're not going to go much more than 40 minutes, so let's get started with. Should we start with scalping?
You want to lead us into that one there?
Yeah, right. Okay, so obviously, as everyone's aware, there's been major scalping issues. Um, But there's been scalping on both sides of the fence on for the Xbox Series X and the PS5. Um, However, I think the
Even PC
PS5,
guys.
yeah, but even PS5, I think is getting massively scalped more though. And I think a part of this issue is Sony's release of the PS5 because they had a scheduled release, didn't they? But then they pushed it forward without the players knowing. They told their players there's going to be a release date for the PS5, but then they pulled that forward, didn't they? And instead done a sort of a surprise release at the end of their conference, I believe, did they not? Um,
They did, but I think the intention behind that was to try and offset the scalpers, because the scalpers would have been setting up their bots ready to go. So someone working at home would have had time to just hit their bot go live maybe and start scalping. Um,
yeah, but what
but it wasn't very fair at the time, no, to
well,
the actual
and
PlayStation
what has
players who
happened
wanted it.
is the bots were set up and they've bought thousands and thousands of PS5s all around the world. There's been bots set up. You know, I heard there's one in the UK that some guy's got 4,000 PS5s. Um, and then there's another one they're running their own got their own website where you can join. If you sub to their website, you can join them and you can sort of join their sort of scalping site, and you get a console and stuff like that, and you can help scalp the consoles. Have you read about that? Did you read anything about that?
Yeah, I saw that there were people. There was that what is it? Kind of like a subscription or something. You can sign up and they'll like teach you how to create your bots and all of those
Yeah.
sort of things. I saw that. What I'm just kind of disappointed with scalpers. I understand people want to make a quick buck, but it's the beginning of the generation.
Yeah.
And there are so many gamers out there who deserve to play games on the console that they prefer. They're the real fans
Yeah.
of the system, so they should be entitled to have access to those consoles. Like there really needs to be a better way to do the purchases online. Like
Yeah.
maybe apply to Microsoft and get like a code, or apply to Sony and get a code, and then it
That
means that
should
you
be it.
use
Yeah.
that code to get it out.
Mm.
I don't know how it would work, but they really need to come up with some better way to do it,
The same.
to prevent scalpers,
Well,
because it's even so bad on PC.
yeah, well, it should be exactly the same as how you would purchase a ticket for to go to a show, I think, or anything. You can only usually purchase things a certain amount of something. Like if you was to go to watch a show at the O2, for example, you can only purchase something like up to 10 tickets. They won't let you purchase more. I'm surprised they've not got anything like that in play to stop this scalping, rather than letting people buy 4,000 consoles for personal use, which is clearly not for personal use. This is that I'm just finding that odd. But what I think more so I find irritating, but I can understand why they give no shits. But like for example, Sony have not stopped scalping. They've not blocked these scalping sites or do anything about it. I can understand that in from their view, they've sold 4,000 consoles, so they don't care after that. But the only thing is, it does ultimately affect players. So players can't get these consoles, and that's what's fun. Weird. I was having a debate with a guy who was saying, "Oh, well, looks like PS5 sold 2.5 million consoles already, or something like that." But I said back to him, "Yes, and probably half of those are scalpers. So half of those are probably not owned by players, but are still sitting on a shelf somewhere, waiting to be sold for £1,000." So
Well, yeah,
you
there's
can
that one.
go on. Sorry.
I was going to say there's that one scalping group that confirmed that they have 3,500 PlayStation
Exactly.
5s. And I'm like, that's 3,500 PlayStation gamers who can't play
Yeah.
a
Exactly.
console because of you assholes.
So yeah.
What I guess I mean fools to the scalpers anyway, because probably 1 out of 5 of those 3,500 units is going to be defective in some form, like it is with any new technology. But seriously, scalpers just need to be respectful and decent human beings.
Yeah.
I think it's so rude. Um, I was so annoyed when I found it extremely difficult to pre-order a Series X initially,
Yeah.
and I'm so glad I was able to do that. The only reason why I was actually able to pre-order a Series X is because Microsoft's New Zealand website hadn't actually gone live for pre-orders on time. And I contacted them and I said they're not showing up as pre-orderable. It's still showing up as it's meant to go live on what day was it? September 22nd.
Yep.
But obviously in New Zealand, we're based on our time zone ahead of everyone, so it was actually November 21st for us. And so I messaged them and I got hold of them and they were like, well, no, it goes live on this date at this time. I'm like, cool, that's not what the advertising has said for New Zealand. And then they looked into it further and like, no, my bad. And they said, actually, it's a mistake. It should have already gone live. It's going to go live at 10 o'clock. It should have gone live at 8. And I was like, cool, all right, sweet. I'll wait to pre-order at 10. I'm glad I didn't wait because I randomly, like 10 minutes and then refreshed the page and the pre-orders were live. And I messaged my sister and we both managed to get a pre-order in time. And the only reason why we got it is because it wasn't available through the Microsoft Store on time then. And I was, thank God, I contacted them and then we're like, you need to make it go live. Or else I wouldn't have one because I missed out on JB, High Five, I missed out on EB Games, I missed out everywhere else that it was being pre-orderable in New Zealand. But the Microsoft Store in New Zealand was available only because they went late.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
And I think what's made it even worse now is they did announce that they was going to sell the consoles in the Black Friday sales. So you can only imagine how many scalpers have bought now at a lower cost and then going to sell them at a higher cost.
I think the pandemic, to be honest, was a scalper's wet dream type thing. You know,
exactly.
it came at a time where like we're running into a recession. Clearly, it's going to be a global recession with what's happening.
Yeah.
And so they're like, how do we make a quick buck? Oh, let's buy all these units and sell them for ridiculous prices. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
But it's because people can't go in and physically go pick up a unit because it's all being done online.
No. And I'm finding it particularly stupid that people are actually boasting about buying scalped versions. For like, I see one PS5 guy saying he bought his PS5 for $900. That's really not helping the situation. You should. I urge everyone not to buy from these scalpers. Let them sit there with their with their 4,000 whatever it is PS5s or whatever it is sitting on a shelf, just rotting and gathering dust. Because at the end of the day, if you're just going to buy from them, they're going to make money, and then we're going to see this in we're going to see this mid-gen refresh. It will happen again in the mid-gen refresh, and it will happen again in the following generation, and it's just going to go on and on and on. When Nintendo bring out their new Switch, we're going to see it all again. And it will just be now the way of things, and I think it needs to be stopped now. And I hope in the future Microsoft and Sony combine their efforts to do something about this, to actually ban this or put something in place so you can only purchase it with a key code or something, with as you said, with something that just allows you to buy a certain amount of consoles, really.
Yeah, well, I agree with you there in the fact that the only way to stop scalpers is to stop buying the products that scalpers have. Yeah. They're not going to want to scalp if they can't make money.
Yeah.
And then they've got all of these units that they can't get rid of, that they can't make their money on. So the next
Yeah.
best thing is for them to sell it at either the actual price or lower.
Yeah.
Like, what? I don't see why they have to do it so high in the first place. Like I
Yeah.
mean, I don't agree with scalping whatsoever, but like, if you want to sell it and you've got more than one,
Yeah.
you could just maybe put an extra 50 on. It's not worth an extra 50. I think
Oh,
that's
that's what I've
bullshit.
seen.
But
That's what I've seen in the UK. There's a UK guy that's got 2,000 of them. He said he's selling them for 550. So he's being very clever
oh,
about it. So people obviously going to
yeah,
think, oh, pay an extra 50 quid more. But he's got 2,000 of them. So that means he's going to make, 2,000 times 50. A bit of money, but good for him. So he's actually being
yeah.
clever about it. He's not
So
selling them at stupid prices, but more than what they're
some
worth.
some of them some of them are going for what, $2,000?
Yeah, ridiculous.
I'm like, are you kidding me? People are
Yeah.
that I know people are that desperate. They want that next gen system. But I think at the
Imagine you
moment,
get a
hold
dud one.
off.
Imagine you get a
Both
dud
systems.
one.
Yes, both systems have their perks and their problems.
Yep.
But one has more problems than the other. But just wait a little bit. Like, a lot of people are saying they're waiting another 6 months to a year before they pick up the next gen system once everything is really settled in on itself. For the companies with both hardware and software problems and updates, because by that time they should be very stable, solid systems.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not getting one till Christmas because my wife told me so. So, no, basically because it's a present from Santa. So,
I'm kidding.
not that I know about, but mine's a present from Santa. But I can wait. To be honest, I never buy my consoles at launch in a way. I'm quite happy to wait. I'm quite a patient person, so I'm quite happy to just hang about till Christmas anyway.
Whereas I'm
But
the opposite.
yeah,
I've bought my last 3 systems at launch day one, and I've never had any issues. The only issue I've had with my Series X has just been my controller. Like, I'll power on my console with my controller, and then randomly my controller won't be and console don't pick each other up. Even though I just turned it on with the controller, that's a random thing that happens. But a power off with the console and a reach and such and turning it back on seems to fix it. So I don't know. I've had it twice.
yeah,
But that is the only thing I've had issues with. Other than I think there was like about 40 hours into Assassin's Creed. It froze on me.
right.
But I've had that issue with like games on the 360
Yeah.
and games on my Xbox
Well, I
One
think we
and
should let's cover the
games on my
issues then.
PC, so it
Yeah.
just happens. Those aren't deal breakers. Other than that, my console has been amazing.
Right, so we roll on to now our next
No
subject,
issues
which is
other than that.
issues. Obviously, both consoles are having issues, but the PS5 is having more issues.
Oh,
But let's start with
sorry, I
the
can't
Xbox.
hear you, Elite.
Oh,
I think that's my fault.
oh dear. Okay. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Has she unplugged herself? I cannot hear her. I
Can you
will.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. You hear me?
Okay, cool. I
Yeah.
do.
Right. Okay. So let's move on to the next
Yeah.
subject, which is the issues. Now, both consoles are having their issues, but the
Yeah.
PS5 is undoubtedly having more issues. But we'll first cover the Xbox Series X
More systems
because we're
out
fair.
in the wild, right?
Yeah. Well, more systems apparently sitting on shelves. Some guys got 3,000 of them. Um,
Yep.
so we'll start with the Xbox Series X just to make it fair because we're about gaming. So Xbox Series X is having issues. So the Xbox Series X issues what I'm having are mainly I think the games. Like as you touched on Valhalla, and what I've seen is other YouTubers having problems with that game. So I'm not necessarily knowing if it's the game or the hardware in that case. When it's coming to games, I don't necessarily think it's the hardware because Digital Foundry did say that it's very buggy. The game itself is very buggy, and they've had loads of issues with it. So I wouldn't necessarily put down to the hardware for both consoles when it comes to games. However, hardware wise, I can't think of hardware wise the issues on the Xbox Series X other than the disk drive. I think people are having some faults with disk drive. Some guy said when he puts in a disc and plays it and then opens the disc while it's playing, it jams or it does something to his machine, sort of
Turned off the
basically.
game, he's just ejected it immediately.
Yeah. So he's he's running the game, and while the disc is spinning, he then ejects it.
Well, that's stupid.
Yeah, so he put that on YouTube, which for one, that's sort of a given, really. You just don't do that
Yeah,
anyway. But you should,
you don't.
no. So yeah, that's a scenario where you just it shouldn't do it, but it does. But that's sort of pretty much avoidable, really. It's not a sort of groundbreaking
That's the
issue, really.
problem with the Xbox in 2013. It had disc issues,
Yeah,
and there people are saying that the PlayStation 5 is having disc issues. It's hardware.
yeah,
That's a mechanical thing. So
yeah,
of course there are always going to be issues. It looks like that the PlayStation 5 disc drive has changed from the PS4 disc drive. I haven't seen it. I think the Xbox one is exactly the same. So maybe it's
yeah,
just every so often there seems to be some faulty units.
yeah,
Um, but it's a given.
yeah. So they're both having disk drive
I would
issues.
expect. Yeah.
But what I can hear is the Xbox Series X, its main issue is the disk drive. But let's go on to the
Yes.
other issues. I don't think the Xbox Series X is having anything else really recorded as issues, but the PS5, we're both aware that it's having. I think you know more about the issues on the PS5. We know the story, the passing games, PS4 games, save storage and stuff over to PS5 is creating a lot of problems in the consoles, isn't it?
Yeah. I'll see if I can find the thing I've got for it.
Look it up.
Don't know
Look it
where
up.
it is. Yeah, I have like a
Yeah,
list
I did have a
somewhere.
list. Yeah, I'm not
Uh,
prepared at the moment. I did have a list of issues. I think there was about 5 or 6 issues with the PS5. One of them was the storage. Um, one of them was the disk drive.
let's see if I can find.
Another was what was the other one? I think that the other one was
Yeah.
just
So there
gone.
were issues with there were just all sorts of different issues. Like I think one of them was I'm brain dead right now, guys. Um, One of them was issues with storage, issues with playing games from the PS or from the external hard drive. It seems if you're using an external hard drive to play your PS4 games, and that's the only way you can play PS4 games, from my understanding,
Yeah,
is off the external hard drive.
yeah.
You can't do like what I do on Xbox, whereas I move all my games
Plug and play.
from my external
Yeah,
onto my SSD, and then I get all the benefits of that.
yeah.
And then when I'm done, I just transfer them back, or I'm hopefully finish the game. I'm never going to play it again. Depends on the
Delete
game.
it and it goes into the
Um,
cloud.
delete it.
Yeah,
Yes. But that's that's a big issue there. A lot of people have been saying that when they do that, they get that they tend to get that storage issue where it says it's got to redo the storage with the SSD, and then that's where that guy with one of the review units or retail review units bricked his system. There was another one. There was something on Twitter today where they were saying that they had just deleted the games, uninstalled the games from the standard UI dashboard, rather than actually going into the system settings and going into the managing their storage. And they have said they wish they had done that because that has now caused problems, and they're sick of troubleshooting it. So their console's going back, and they're going to wait another 6 months till these issues are fixed. I think my biggest concern with the PlayStation 5 at the moment is the newer UI. It is new, so it's untested. People were complaining that Xbox didn't have a new UI, and it's like, well, technically it is a new UI, but
they're
it's
evolving their UI
been
all the time.
brought up,
Xbox. They've been doing it all gen.
evolved, and
Yeah,
brought up because we got a new UI at the beginning of last gen.
yeah,
In
exactly.
2013, we got a new UI, and there were a lot of things in that UI that weren't available on day one that were on the previous System 360.
Yeah.
We had to wait until they'd patched or added those features in, and now it's amazing in comparison to what it was day one.
Yeah.
And we've got that same UI. It's so snappy. I love the new store, but PlayStation now has a new UI, so they're running into that same issues where it's not as stable as it should be.
Yeah.
It's going to get better over time, so you just have to be patient, which is the people who are waiting 6 months to a year down the line to get a new console are going to find it's a lot better because they've got all those updates, they've got all those fixes to improve that UI. Another thing was, did you watch the video about the cooling teardown video for the PS5?
No, didn't know.
I can't remember the name of the channel, Nexus Gaming or Nexus something. They're like they generally do with PCs and those sort of things.
Okay.
Spawn Wave, if you've ever seen Spawn Wave Media, he did a video talking about this, and then I actually watched the video, and they put whole heap of probes on the PS5 while it was running on different components. Obviously, they didn't do anything with the liquid cooling, but they put it on the other side of the SoC.
Yeah.
And they found out that it wasn't adequately cooled in some areas. One of the memory modules got up to like 95 degrees in comparison to some of the others. So that's really, really hot.
Yeah.
And if it's getting that hot at the beginning of the generation because it doesn't have proper adequate cooling, how is it going to survive 5-7 years down the line? They're going to run into issues. And that's part of the reason why we're seeing glitches with the system, like artifacting in games. It's just overheating or being overclocked, and people said it wasn't overclocked. It was clearly overclocked based on RDNA 2. Yeah.
It is overclocked.
So there's so many things. Like, I looked at that, and what my biggest thing was when I looked at the PS5 teardown, I was like, can you show me the adequate cooling for the expandable driver on the M.2 slot? No one's actually talked about that. No one's really gone in and said, this is adequately cooled. It's going to be fine if you put an SSD in there, because part of the reason why SSDs have great performance when you first start using them, and